Hello everyone and welcome to the Week 13 edition of Instant Replay, where I give you my take on the most controversial plays of the weekend. I'm Simon Borg. We start in Seattle, where the Portland Timbers lost to their rival Sounders 1-0, but they wanted two potential handballs called for penalties in the second half. And based on the replays, I thought they had a strong case on the first incident here. You see Chad Marshall's left arm is fairly outstretched on this deflection of a Darlington Nagbe shot. I thought it was a handball, but no call from referee Mark Geiger. And then with 13 minutes left, the Timbers bench felt that this was another handball offense committed by Seattle's Ozzie Alonso in the box. But in my opinion, this contact is incidental as he attempts to bring his arm across Fernando Ari's body. I agree with the no call there from Geiger. Earlier in the match, the Timbers were protesting this aerial challenge by Clint Dempsey on Portland defender Roy Miller. Dempsey's elbow is pretty pointed, it's high, and it makes contact with Miller before the ball gets there. I would have been okay with a red card for serious foul play in that spot. Referee Mark Geiger awards the foul, but doesn't issue any cards. And then just before the end of the first half, it was a Portland player committing an ugly-looking foul that earned him a yellow from Geiger. In this case, I'm okay with the yellow since the replays show Portland Sebastian Blanco was actually trying to make a play on the loose ball, albeit recklessly. And it looks like no one has told Blanco about the league rules regarding the placement of hands on an opponent's face. To Red Bull Arena, where referee Ismael Elfath called the penalty after just 8 minutes, and this was a good call. Defender Damian Perinel cuts down the Revolution's Diego Fagundes in the box, and visiting New England take an early 1-0 lead. But eventually the Revs were chasing the game down 2-1 late when Lee Nguyen goes down in the Red Bulls box with 9 minutes left. We don't have the best angle, but it looks to me like New York's Kamar Lawrence makes a solid challenge on the ball, not the man, and wins it fair and square, even though Nguyen hits the deck. No call from Elfath, who was right there, and for me, that was the best decision of the week, and not such an easy one to make given its bang-bang nature. Elfath needed the help of his assistant Kermit Quisenberry on this incident in second half stoppage time involving Revs sub Teal Bunbury and Red Bull center back Perinel. We can see Elfath utter the words, "What did you see?" as he looks in his assistant's direction. And with that feedback, Elfath shows Bunbury a yellow, but given the force of his shove and the fact that it's directed at the player's head and neck, off the ball no less, for me Bunbury risked a straight red for violent conduct. Next up, Avaya Stadium, where we saw a great no call by referee Ricardo Salazar in the 31st minute. LA's Romano Alessandrini pounds the ground, but there's no foul by Darwin Saren there. The Galaxy would get their penalty 3 minutes later when Kofi Sarkodie trips LA right back Bradley Diallo, and that's a stone-cold PK. Giovanni Dos Santos converts, and Sarkodie subbed out at halftime. The Galaxy were buzzing in this one, and they won the match 4-2, and San Jose defender Victor Enmuma Bernardes had to use extreme measures to stop Romano Alessandrini on this play 3 minutes into the second half. I'd argue that's excessive force and worthy of a red card. The referee calls the foul, but no cards issued. To Rio Tinto Stadium, where we had a penalty shot by the Philadelphia Union, who were down 1-0 in the 74th minute. They were appealing for a handball in the box allegedly committed by RSL's Chris Wingert, and although we don't get a good look at the replay, it looks like they may have had a case. But referee Fotis Bazakos is having none of it. The Union would lose the match by that 1-0 scoreline. No issues with the penalty called by referee Drew Fisher in Toronto after just 5 minutes. You see how Crew SC's Jonathan Mensah pulls back on Toast St. Ricketts for denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. But the question here is whether that foul deserved a dog so yellow or a dog so red. The key is, was Mensah trying to make a play on the ball? I don't think so, which is why I would have gone red card, but Fisher opts for the yellow. And with no Jovinko or Altidore in the lineup, it's Victor Vasquez who converts. Now, visiting Crew SC had a good case for a penalty about 20 minutes later when it looks on the replay like Toronto defender Drew Moore deflects this ball with his left arm. It's a real awkward one, and there's no doubt about it for me based on the replay, but the referee had a really tough angle on that one. Corner kick is what he awarded. Another tough call for Fisher in the second half as Mensah brings down Toronto's Marky Delgado, but was it inside or outside the box? That was a close one. With the benefit of replay, I think it was on the line, which would make it a penalty, but Fisher spots the ball just outside. But it probably felt like a PK anyway for Vasquez, who slots it under the wall for Toronto's third of 5 goals. There was a red card in this one, and it was shown to Marky Delgado, who sends the high studs into Crew SC's Will Trapp in the 80th minute. Fisher pulls out the red card, and there's no question for me. I thought there was a similar play to the Delgado tackle in the 66th minute in Minnesota, where I felt Loons midfielder Sam Cronin was lucky not to be sent off for this high studs up challenge on Orlando's PC. Similar to the Marky Delgado play in Toronto, Cronin's leg is elevated off the ground at the height of the ball and makes contact with the ball, but the challenge still endangers the safety in my opinion. Minnesota's Cronin stays in the game and gets the caution from referee Nima Sagafi. There was a controversial moment earlier in the match in the 33rd minute when Loon's midfielder Johan Venegas goes down in the Orlando box, but referee Sagafi, who was right on top of the play, calls the foul going the other way. First, I think the referee is right not to call the penalty. There's no foul on Venegas here, but I also don't see a foul by Venegas, although I can see how the referee perhaps thought in real time that Venegas made contact with the Orlando player's foot and not the ball. We can parse the replay, however. Either way, not a penalty. A few interesting plays from Dick's Sporting Goods Park. In the 18th minute, Colorado defender Bobby Burling challenges Benny Feilhaber, and the arm is definitely elevated, but is it more of an elbow or a stray reckless arm that Burling delivers to Feilhaber's face? Referee Elar Grajeda shows Burling a yellow. And in the 89th minute, it was Colorado's Kevin Doyle involved in a similar play when he goes in leading with the forearm / elbow, but he ultimately makes contact with Matt Beasler's head using his shoulder. I thought yellow card there was the right call by Grajeda. Sporting KC lost the match 1-0, but Sporting manager Peter Vermees was protesting for a penalty call after Jimmy Medranda hit the deck in the Rapids box in the 24th minute. No call from the referee, and I agree. For me, this was a case of Medranda backing into Colorado's Marlon Hairston rather than the other way around. Sunday's Dallas-Houston rivalry match was a pretty clean affair for referee Jair Marufo's crew, but FC Dallas also had a match against the Fire earlier in the week, and they scored in the 6th minute, but was Roland Lama offside on his goal. It's a tough play to call in real time because the ball is bouncing all over the place, but it does look like Lama is ahead of the last defender when the ball caroms off his teammate. Assistant referee Logan Brown keeps his flag down. Dallas would wind up losing the match, and they also conceded a late penalty in stoppage time. But I'm not so sure about the foul called here by referee Jose Carlos Rivero. It doesn't look to me like Victor Ulloa commits an infraction on Chicago's Nemanja Nikolic, the league's top scorer, who can't beat Dallas goalkeeper Chris Seitz in this instance. To Bobby Dodd, where Atlanta United handed NYCFC a 3-1 defeat, and the third goal, which really put the game away, came in the 23rd minute. But was there a foul on the play? Atlanta's Julian Gressel and New York defender Alexander Callens are moving at high speed here, and it's hard to detect in real time, but when we slow it down, it does look like Gressel makes contact with Callens' right leg, causing him to trip. But referee Armando Villarreal doesn't call it, and Callens is left appealing with assistant Kyle Atkins. A frustrating day for NYCFC, and I think they're lucky not to have a couple of players sent off in this one. There was the 64th minute incident between New York's RJ Allen and Atlanta's Greg Garza off the ball, and it looks like Allen kicked him from behind. And 10 minutes later, New York midfielder Alex Ring, who was already sitting on a yellow, risked big time by taking down Yamil Assad. Remember, as we've seen earlier this year, you don't need to necessarily make contact to commit a foul. And we end in Vancouver, where there were 2 penalties called by referee Soren Stoica, including one awarded to DC in the 59th minute, which wound up deciding the match. DC forward Jose Guillermo Ortiz is the one who draws the call, but when you watch the replay, it's frankly hard to spot any contact. But the penalty is given, and DC take a lead that they would not give up. Now, keep in mind that just last week, the MLS Disciplinary Committee fined Jose Guillermo Ortiz for simulation against Chicago. But if you thought that was an eventful call, there was this penalty awarded to Vancouver in the 5th minute of stoppage time. But the whistle comes 10 seconds after the alleged foul, and it would seem it was to get medical help for Vancouver's Breck Shea. The referee Stoica uses the break to discuss the matter with his assistant Jason White, and they award a penalty. Although the whistle indicating a penalty comes nearly 2 minutes after the original foul, the fact is the officiating crew got it right. And as long as play doesn't restart after that stoppage in play, the referee is well within his rights, according to the laws of the game, to come back and award the penalty. But after all that, the Caps still couldn't score, hitting the woodwork for a 4th time and losing at home 1-0. Let us know your thoughts on those penalty calls in the comments section. And until next week, that's all we have for now. For our editor, Rich Hernandez, I'm Simon Borg. See you next time!